winning ground balls, and as we mentioned just a few seconds ago, trying to avoid turnovers. You got to have obviously good defense and good goalkeeping, and you got to be able to put the ball in the net. You got to be able to score goals. But possession in this game is so important.
Right. I think possession is the most important aspect of the game. You can't score if you can't hold on to the ball. So the team who has the ball most of the game is most likely going to win the game. So
this is only Cazanovia's third game of the season. So once again, not knowing a whole lot about Cazanovia as they shoot and score on their first shot from the left side. But do you anticipate they're really going to be coming out aggressive today, at least early on in this first quarter, or maybe kind of sit back a little bit, even though they were able to get that shot to go?
No, I would definitely assume that they would be, they're going to play aggressive. The Knights have struggled defensively all season, so their on-ball defense hasn't been where they want it to be, and their team defense, I don't think, is fully in sync. Obviously, that side, there wasn't a lot of ball pressure, and they were able to find the open man backside, and he was able to get a shot in a relatively high-scoring area.
And so the Wildcats jump on top here, 1-0, getting the opening goal. And now the Knights will try to go on the attack, but they're not able to win the faceoff. Draw is won by the Wildcats of Cazanovia College out of New York. Wildcats trying to get in position here to maybe make it a 2-0 lead. And it looks like, Ryan, they're really kind of spacing things out here.
Yeah, it definitely looks like they're they're a more patient team. They don't like to press early offense. Probably wait to see their matchups that they have.
And this is just their third game of the season. The Knights have already played 8. Knights are 5-3 on the season. Cazenovia 0-2. Shot deflected, but the Wildcats maintain possession. Knights trying to force some action, get a takeaway if possible.
Oh.
And the Knights are going to be fortunate at that time, Ryan, to get possession.
No, that was a lucky break, but let's see if they can clear it and get settled and finally get a look at the Knights' offensive unit.
Cazanovia has the one shot on goal and the goal. Knights are looking to go on offense, really getting into the attack area for the first time in this first quarter. And a takeaway by the Wildcats, and now they're on a fast break. And a good defense from behind to kind of deflect that shot.
Yeah, and like I was saying earlier, those those kind of silly turnovers in the middle of the field have cost the Knights greatly so far this season. So,
got to be frustrating for Coach Jason Lamb to deal with those kind of turnovers early in the season. Now the Knights quickly ready to go here on the offensive end.
Yeah, and the Knights really like to press early offense, so let's look for them to get a shot off in the first 15 seconds of this possession, as they did. So
from the right side, unable to get it close to the goal that time. Knights still have it, looking for their first goal of the first quarter, trailing 1-0 here. Lamb from behind. To Ty Veras out front on top with Lamb behind the goal. And Schmidt over to the left. And Carter Bean looking for an opening, can't find it. Bean down low, nothing there, so he'll back it out.
You're definitely starting to see a lot more patience in this offense, which is awesome to see.
And Carter Bean, good pass from the right side over to Bean on the left, and he didn't hesitate, Ryan, to snap off that shot.
No, that was awesome. And the ball movement there was incredible. They were able to, catch Casanova sleeping where Bean was able to get backside and, with the quick stick, one hitter, able to bury the ball. So that's a good possession by the Knights. They were able to kill some clock and come away with the goal. So.
How about the tactics, too, about who you're going to use in the position right behind the goal? In that case, it was Lamb behind the goal for most of that play.
So a lot of teams they put their best dodging attackmen at X, and this year Sean Lamb is the go-to guy with that, where he's able to dodge and beat his man and draw a slide to create opportunity backside above the goal. So
And Sean is the second leading goal scorer as Thomas able to win the draw that time. So Carter Bean getting his 12th goal of the season to even this game at 1 here in the first quarter. Lamb really not being pressured behind there right now. Goes from the left over to the right, over to Garf.
looks like we're going to get a look at this second line midfield group with Cade Rich, Anthony Good, and Michael Anderson.
A lot of freshmen out there, but also, a lot of players who've got a lot of experience, like Cade Rich last year as a freshman getting a lot of experience.
Yeah, and Cade Rich is the brother of, former captain Casey Rich, who, has led the Knights in goals for the past few years.
You also see Anthony Good, number 27, out there, and I can recall it was a 2015 season where Good and Rich were really the outstanding young players as far as the goal scorers were concerned on that 2015 team.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was one of Lamb's. I think that was Lamb's second year here as a head coach, and yeah, Anthony Good had a outstanding season. He's been plagued with injury for the past 2 years, so we haven't really seen much of him. He's become more of an offensive man-up specialist, but it's nice to see him getting involved with the second line midfield.
There is Anthony Good scoring.
Excellent shot outside.
And Anthony Good is able to pick up his 5th goal of the season. So Good and Carter Bean quickly scoring after Cazanovia had scored to lead off the game, and it's 2-1 Knights.
Yeah, we're definitely starting to see some confidence being built, especially with this second-line midfielder where they're able to attack, constantly dodge against their man, and create the looks that they were able to backside with Anthony Good being in what Coach Lamb likes to call the sweet spot for a shooter. So,
what do you think the Knights learned in their most 2 recent home losses to Merchant Marine and especially to Christopher Newport? That Christopher Newport game a few Saturdays ago, that was a situation where you had 2 4-0 teams, and obviously CNU just dominated that game in the first half.
I think it's a wake-up call, especially for these young players who, that was the first CAC game where they can finally see, oh, wow, this is a really good, we're in a really good conference. These teams are really good. They're able to, have a reality check, say, hey, maybe we're young and talented, but we definitely need to work harder. So,
deflection there on Lamb's shot from the left side. This is the first of 3 straight home games for the Knights. Cazenovia today, then Bridgewater on Wednesday, and then next Saturday, home to Marymount. And there's going to be a lot of big road games coming up in the Capital Conference. You look at the schedule, Ryan. Again, you've got Marymount at home, St. Mary's, Wesley at home. If the Knights can win those 3 home games, and maybe you take 1 or 2 on the road like a Frostburg or a Mary Washington, they might be in pretty good shape not only to make the tournament this year, as they've done in the past couple of years, but maybe land in the top 4, which would mean obviously a first-round home game.
Right, and to make the tournament, all you need is 3 CAC wins.
Another goal.
Yep.
Seth Garth from the right side this time.
Yeah, no, that's where Seth Garth, likes to score most of his goals. He is a natural lefty. Being on that side, he's able to have his left hand upfield where he can increase his angle with his strong hand. So.
That's his 21st goal of the season. He leads the team in scoring.
Right, he's been an absolute fantastic finisher this year. So.
Well, I know Coach Lamb told us about wanting to maybe take the next step. And the past couple of years, they've made the tournament, lost to CNU both years. Obviously, had to go on the road both those situations, landing in the 5 or 6 spot. And so now they would like to obviously be 3 or 4 so that you get to host a quarterfinal game.
Right. And, that's the goal has been for the past 2 years to make it to that CAC championship game. And that, certainly that goal hasn't changed. And even losing to CNU, that doesn't change anything. All they need are 3 CAC wins, to make the tournament. And, then they have the chance to, really surprise somebody and maybe upset a Frostburg or a Salisbury or a York. So
Yeah, because right now it looks like, just based on that CNU game, and as you mentioned, Salisbury and York, they could well be the top three teams.
Yeah, absolutely. CNU this year has had some absolutely phenomenal improvements in their lacrosse program, where they hired new coaches, recruited some top players. They have preseason All-American face-off man, so they definitely have an opportunity to make a run this year. So
I know Salisbury and York have some non-conference losses, but boy, Salisbury, they really play a tough schedule.
yeah, absolutely. There's a reason why they're the number one team in the nation.
And if you're the Knights, if you can maybe get the third or fourth spot and win your quarterfinal match, you go on the road maybe for the semifinals to maybe a CNU or a Salisbury or York, and at that point you got nothing to lose and just see what happens.
Right, absolutely. And anyone could win on any given day. So I mean, say someone shows up and plays their worst game, we show up and play our best game. They can really turn some heads this year. So
good save there by Arve. And in fact, when you look at last year's quarterfinal matches, Arve lost it.
Oh, they'll call that interference with the goalie. That'll be a free clear.
So last year at CNU, I know they lost that game for the second straight year in the quarterfinals, but that was an extremely close game into the fourth quarter.
No, absolutely, and some dumb penalties towards the end of that game. Caused it to slip away. But that was the last game of my college career.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, it was a very aggressive, hard-fought game. And I think if we had the 2 minutes left in that game, it would have gone a different way. So
when you look at some of the teams you played with here, like the last couple of years, how do those teams compare to this year's team, this 2018 team? Because a couple of years ago, they had the really good freshmen, Zach Danneman and Kimber, and let's hope those guys, I guess, return and are ready to play maybe in the next year or two. But as you mentioned, for the last couple of years, the Knights have had some outstanding freshmen. So this 2018 team, which also has some pretty good freshmen, how does it compare maybe the last couple of years?
Well, I would say that the team is more well-rounded than it ever has been in the past. You're getting a lot more players involved. Instead of having 1, 2, maybe 3 people doing most of the offensive work where all the scoring is said, you have scoring spread out throughout the whole offense where
Yep.
you're having even second-line midfielders tallying 5, 6 goals on the season. And, instead of just having 1, 2 attackmen scoring all the goals, you're having everybody getting involved, which is awesome to see.
Knights were trying for the takeaway there, not able to grab it. It's 3-1. Southern Virginia on top after Cazanovia scored the game's first goal. Well, a lot of people focus on the goal scoring, but to be successful, and there's a bouncing shot in for Cazenovia, as I don't think Arve was expecting that one to hit right in front of him and then right over his shoulder.
Oh, that was a really good shot. That was probably a little further, caught Arve off guard, but as a goalkeeper, you got to be ready for those. And excellent shooter. Is going to change the planes of his shot, and Cazanovia using a bounce shot to do that. So got Arve out of position, was able to sneak past him over his head. So
how does this year's team compare in other areas besides the offense, namely obviously winning draws, goalkeeping, and defense?
Well, I'd say years past, our defense has always kind of been an issue. Last year they were pretty strong with senior captains Greg Gowdy and Kieran Giroux,
Yeah.
Who played really strong defense. And now we just don't have that that kind of leadership anymore. Colin Maxfield is having a pretty good season this year, but
and he's a senior.
Right, absolutely. And he was part of that defensive unit last year that played really well, but they just have struggled defensively this year. So,
and it's 3-2 with Cazanovia on the attack, trying to tie the game here late in the first quarter. Unusual schedule too for the Knights. We talked about the first of 3 straight home games, and after those 3 home games are done, the Knights will only have 2 home games left with 5 road games.
Yeah, and every single road game they'll have left was really the meat of the conference, where they first road game will be against Salisbury at Salisbury, and then they have Frostburg, York, and Mary Washington, who are teams that the Knights have never been able to beat. in the past. So
then you got to figure Coach Lamb would like to maybe beat either Frostburg or Mary Washington, or ideally both.
well, ideally both. Last year we actually, when we played Mary Washington and Frostburg, they were all really close games. In fact,
They're probably still thinking about that Frostburg
Yeah,
home loss where they were up by 2 with like a minute to go, I think it was.
yeah, no, that Frostburg game still haunts me, and I haven't been playing for over a year. So, we're up by 2 goals with 3 minutes left with the ball, and end up losing that one. That one hurt. So
Yeah, I can still recall that game, especially where it looked like it was going to overtime, and then suddenly in the last few seconds they were able to get the winning goal.
yeah, and that was heartbreaking. So, but those kind of performances show the growth of the program to where in 2015, my first year playing for Jason Lamb, we lost to Frostburg, 31-4 or something,
Right.
something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
And coming away and almost beating them, it tells stories on the growth of this program and this organization and the things that Jason Lamb and his coaching staff have been able to do.
Yeah, when you go back to that Frostburg game last year, it was kind of a mixed emotions. Obviously, very tough the way the game wound up. But up until those last couple of minutes, that was one of the better games the Knights played last year.
Yeah, that was probably the best game we ever played as a program this far. I'm not going to get called on a push on that one. Yep. Possession will go towards Cazanovia.
So the Wildcats are going to have it.
Yeah, but that was definitely the best game I think the Knights have played. As so far as an organization, just based off of that high caliber team and being able to, come together and really, like we were saying, be leading by 2 with 3 minutes left in the game was pretty incredible. But
Then I seem to
still
recall-
lost the game. But
yeah, I seem to recall one of the problems with that game, and I think you pointed it out. The concern maybe for this year was the defense getting some clears.
yeah, they definitely had some turnovers late in the quarter. If some would say a few questionable calls by the officials.
Yep.
But you can't.
A lot of contact was allowed in that fourth quarter.
Right. So you can't. You got to make yourself undeniable with the officials, and if they make the call, they make the call. So.
Well, the Knights have a 1-point lead here with 1:40 to go here in the first quarter. Knights scored 3 straight goals after Cazanovia got the game's first goal. Wildcats have made it a 3-2 game. Knights are trying to end this first quarter on a high note with 1 or maybe perhaps 2 goals. Not sure the Knights are trying to really set up for the last shot of this quarter here, Ryan, as much as just looking for a good opening.
Yeah, and with that open position, you can definitely see that their goal is just to move the ball around. But now they got their action running, so trying to get their scores in the open positions.
Pass across the middle is knocked away momentarily. Scramble for this loose ground ball. And who will end up getting it? Good hustle there by Colin Maxfield. Knights really had to battle for that ground ball. And now it may be a situation where the Knights just play for the last shot of the quarter.
No, absolutely. I think if they can hold, kill the last 30 seconds, and end with a decent shot, it could boost a lot of confidence for the rest of the game.
Beans, who already has a goal today, and now Lamb over to Garth. Shot from outside is too high. Taken by Jarlis. Knights are going to have to hurry here. 7 seconds and counting. Nice pass over the middle, and the Knights score. What a great pass by Sean Lamb. Got it over to Garth.
No, and you got to wonder why Cazenovia is not sending a defenseman back to pressure Sean Lamb at X. He has all the time in the world to find open shooters, where he was able to do so there with Seth Garf. Being wide open, and what, like I said earlier, what Coach Lamb calls the sweet spot of shooting, which is 10 yards outside, 10 yards away from the goal, right on the hash. And, you can't get any better than that.
So just how easy is that when you're that wide open to catch the pass and shoot basically all in one motion?
Right. So it's for these talented freshmen, when you have that much time, it's almost
second nature.
Yeah, it's second nature. Obviously sometimes you pull the shot, miss, but it's pretty. Sometimes you get those nerves. You say, "Hey, I'm wide open. I'm going to score," and then you mess it up. But I think when you've scored as many goals as Seth Garf, you're confident enough in your ability to put the ball away when you're that open. So.
And Seth had his second goal of the first quarter, 22nd goal of the season. So the Knights end up scoring 4 in the first quarter, and will begin second quarter play with a 2-goal lead after they outscored Cazanovia 4-1 after the Wildcats were able to score the game's first goal.
No, and I think we're definitely starting to see some more aggression on the offense on the defense, where they're pressuring out. Cazanovia's having a hard time finding the Sky's backside, so a problem that they've faced all year, and it seems like it's working to their advantage this game so far.
It makes you wonder if Cazenovia is going to really change their approach, not so much on offense, but more maybe on defense, trying to pressure maybe a guy like Lamb behind the goal.
Yeah, I would assume so. I don't, you have the former CAC offensive rookie of the year, and you're not gonna pressure him behind the goal where that's really his area where he succeeds. He's able to keep his head up and find open shooters, which he's done twice so far this game. So, if I was Cazenovia, you would almost have to do that. So
otherwise, you can basically sit back there and you can run some sort of motion, I guess, back and forth and hope just somebody pops open.
Right, absolutely. Ball pressure is the most important part of defense.
Knights will be hosting Bridgewater coming up Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, and that actually will be the last non-conference game of the season for the Knights. And, what's your estimation of these non-conference games? What is Coach Lamb hoping to do? Is it more about getting victories or more about just gearing up for really the meat of the Capital Conference schedule?
Well, I think it's both, especially with a man as competitive as Jason Lamb. It's all about winning. And I think if you win these next couple games, you'll boost some confidence, fine-tune some of your skills so you can stop making some of the mistakes that you made
especially
early in the season.
I would think against Bridgewater, because I know that the team has struggled over the last couple of years beating ODAC schools.
Right. And last year was the first year that SVU actually was able to beat Bridgewater, and that actually ended in overtime. But like I was saying, these games can be used as, competitive practices to make sure that you're fine-tuning your skills so you're not making the simple mistakes that these high-caliber teams will be able to capitalize on, like Christopher Newport did earlier in the season.
Pretty even first quarter. When you look at these numbers, Ryan, ground balls, Cazenovia had 7. The Knights had 6. Cazenovia with a 4-3 advantage in face-offs won. And when you look at the different categories, it looks pretty even.
Yeah, I'd say time of possession and shots on goal, and we're leading in that position, where Jace Thomas was actually just able to take it straight off the face-off and bury it himself. So it was an excellent shot.
Yeah, Jace Thomas has really made a big difference this season. That'll be his 5th goal, and I'm sure the coaches love that. Not only when you win the face-off, but when you come right down and score yourself.
Yeah, and that's definitely frustrating. That'll definitely frustrate Cazanovia's face-off unit. It's always frustrating when you play for 5 seconds and you're going right back to the face-off X because you just let up a goal. So
Jeff Bain is number 4. He's the Cazanovia Wildcat who is taking this face-off against Jace Thomas.
And he's actually had a really good game. Obviously, he's actually on paper beating Jace Thomas right now. So I think we're starting to see some aggression and confidence from Thomas. So.
I know Coach Lamb really pinned his hopes on Jace Thomas winning a lot of the face-offs last year. We talked about this at the very beginning of our broadcast today. I mean, last year Lund was able to win a lot of the face-offs, it looked like, in some of the non-conference matches. But, well, I'm telling you, they had some real skilled artists who were taking face-offs on some of those Capital Conference teams.
Right, and look back to 2 years ago where Lund was a very successful, up in the 70-75% face-off range, or even against the thick of the CAC games, he was still staying competitive. Lund definitely faced some injuries last year, or to where he had a hard time facing off, but Goal scored by Cazanovia.
Yeah, that's number 44, Joe Tim Jr. scoring. Yeah, I mean, you got to be healthy to play this game, especially if you're taking those face-offs. And
Right.
I don't know, is there one critical factor about winning face-offs? Is it style or is it speed, maybe?
It's a mixture of everything. It's kind of like wrestling, almost, where each face-off's like a wrestling match. You got your power guys who, muscle the ball. You got quick hands. Some guys even cheat. I know when I was a face-off man, that's what I did. I cheated to
Just,
win.
a half second early?
Yeah, no, grab it using my free hand to grab either the other stick or the ball. But
Yeah.
every face-off man has their move, so.
And it's just a matter of, I don't know if you can tell, maybe during the progression of the game, just how the referees are going to call it out there.
Right. And so far it looks like they've been calling it even, but definitely not allowing any of the contact from behind. So.
Well, you hear it so often, really all sports, how the players just really want consistency.
Right.
So the Knights have a 2-point lead here, 5-3. But Cazenovia on the attack, trying to draw within one if they can score. Cazenovia out of New York. Again, this is just their third contest. They lost to Alfred in a close match, lost to Guilford recently. You can see the difference. Obviously, the Knights are really challenging the Wildcat, who's got it behind the net.
Yeah, I know Jason Lamb, when he coaches defense, he says the most important aspect of defense is ball pressure. When you make the ball carrier uncomfortable, he's not able to find the wide open back skip passes, who in most cases is going to be open.
Reese will bring it up, Patrick Reese. See that Lamb is positioning himself momentarily behind. Now they'll switch and send Tennyson Schmidt behind the goal and post Lamb over on the left side.
Yeah, they're in their spread out open. They call this an open position or open set, to where they're pretty much just create easy passes where they can move the ball around. Pretty soon you're going to see them all transfer into the position that they are normally start in.
Schmidt trying to find somebody. Really not being pressured a whole lot back there.
No.
Now Lamb's back there behind the goal. This is Reese. Over to Lamb. And Lamb tried to sneak in for the shot, but it was blocked away. Goalkeeper, by the way, Logan Blunt for Cazanovia. He is 6'3", 220.
Yeah, it's a big boy in the cage.
Lamb behind, looking for an opening, the Knights are. And a Bean with a shot. It's low and it's blocked away, and the Wildcats have it. So now the Wildcats on the attack again, trying to get within one. How about your impressions also about women's lacrosse? They've been able to pick up some non-conference wins. Just obviously had their trip to Hilton Head, South Carolina. Still looking for their first Capital Conference win.
Yeah, and that's another program that's exciting to watch the growth of. If you look in years past, where not but 4 years ago they hadn't even won a game. They were losing every single game by 20 plus goals,
Yep.
and then 3 years getting their first win, and then 2 years having a pretty good season, and then following the same results this year. So Coach Nancy Weber is definitely getting her girls to buy into her system, and she's able to recruit the right kind of girls that you want to have when you're building a program.
A lot of talent there, like Hannah King and Lauren Thatcher. It's just really tough to replace somebody like a Zoe Bradshaw.
Yeah, like a Zoe Bradshaw or a Rainey Tate.
Yep.
Definitely two girls that will be missed on the in years to come.
And, of course, Claire Hoteling, although she's on the coaching staff now.
Right, and it's always nice when you can get your talented players to come and help, and
Sort of like Casey Ridge.
Right, exactly like a Casey Ridge or a Greg Gowdy, who are guys that were studs playing here and sticking around and helping out with the organization.
So have you thought yourself about going into coaching?
Um, no, not coaching. Not really for me. I like the back scenes aspects of the game, kind of like this, but like to watch it without having to stress about it. So.
Well, it takes someone special to really be a coach. I
Yeah.
mean, just because you were a good player doesn't always apply to that necessarily you're going to be a good coach.
Right. Absolutely.
Cazenovia trying to work down low. Unexpected shot taken there. Good defense by the Knights. Looked like Ben Toffeletti was right there to make the play.
No, absolutely. That was great defense.
Knights not able to get the takeaway just yet. Trying to pressure the ball. You know, we mentioned that Salisbury has had some non-conference losses, and they really play a tough schedule. But the Knights play a pretty tough non-conference schedule too. You know, one of the teams they've had on their schedule that has really provided really good opposition the last couple of years was that team they played just a few weeks ago in Merchant Marine.
Yeah, Merchant Marine, especially this year, is definitely a much more talented.
There's Seth Garth with another goal. That's his third, I believe, of the game so far.
Yep, that'll be a hat trick for the freshman. Knights taking advantage of the quick turnover, press and transition, and were able to score quick. So Seth Garth obviously feeling it today.
Getting back to that Merchant Marine game, it was a 19-9 loss, and I don't know if they were still feeling that CNU loss if they were ready to play that game.
Well, looking back to 2 years ago, where Merchant Marine, it was a high-scoring game. Knights ended up falling short by 2 goals. I think they were expecting, the growth of the team to kind of be greater than Merchant Marine's, which wasn't the case. Merchant Marine recruiting some really talented freshmen out of Boys Latin and some of these big high school top of the nation high school programs, and they had a really strong, talented team and very aggressive, and that is a military school, so they were very fit and in shape.
It was a flag down, and a goal scored despite the trip by Cazanovia. So despite a trip coming off of the draw that was won, we did have a penalty flag, and Cazenovia, despite the flag, able to score. So the Wildcats trying to stay close to the Knights after they fell behind by 3, able to score to make it 6-4. Thomas and Bain getting ready to take this draw.
Looks like the tripping penalty was on number 21, Alec Pedroza. Excuse me. That'll be a 30-second technical. So we'll finally get the first look at the Cazanovia man-up unit.
See if they can really take advantage of that. Knights are hoping to keep them at bay. Right now it's just a 2-goal lead for the Knights. Wildcats, let's see if they go on the attack quickly here, Ryan, or if they kind of sit back.
Well, with the man-up opportunity, you can expect them to definitely try to create a quick look. Waiting to get the right personnel on the field.
Trying to bury a pass in between 2 or 3 defenders, which is really tough to do.
Yeah. That was definitely a forced pass. Now the ball's coming the other way.
Knights trying to win this ground ball. Garth had it and lost it. And I guess technically you really don't have it until you've got possession of it, even if you're the one who's closest within a foot or two.
Right, until that ball's secured in your stick, you're definitely not off the hook.
Timeout is taken by Cazenovia with 7:27 to go till halftime, and the Knights holding on to a 2-goal lead right now. So, Coach Lamb, what do you think he's telling his team right now with this 2-goal lead?
Probably settle down a little bit. Stop turning the ball over. He's probably going to be talking about the last series where they had three chances at a ground ball and didn't pick it up. He seems to have, he's splitting up the offense and defense right now. He probably has a word to say to both, but probably just picking up the ground balls and stop turning the ball over and being patient with your looks and not settling for opportunities that aren't, really the best opportunities you can have.
Mentioned that Wednesday night, the Knights will be hosting Bridgewater Wednesday at 7 o'clock, and then a week from today, they've got Marymount at 1 o'clock. And we talked about all the very tough conference games they've got on the road this season, like Salisbury, Frostburg, York, and Mary Washington. And I would think those home games coming up in March, next Saturday against Marymount, and then 2 home games in April against St. Mary's and Wesley. Those home games have almost got to be must-win games.
No, they're definitely must-win games, especially if you want to have the confidence, to going into this really tough away, really tough away schedule that they have left with Salisbury, York, Frostburg, and Mary Washington. All teams that the Knights have struggled with since Jason Lamb has been a part of the program and since the organization has been a part of the CAC.
And I'm sure they would love to obviously finish 3rd or 4th so they can again host the quarterfinal. It's not a guaranteed success that you're at home as opposed to being on the road, but obviously the chances I would think would be better to be at home, and then again you'd also have the experience of playing at home.
Right, you get the experience of playing at home. You don't have to worry about the long bus ride to Christopher Newport or to Mary Wash, York, or Salisbury, which are 4+ hour bus rides, which is taxing on a player. You get to stay you get to sleep in your own bed. You kind of get to do your own daily routine and only focus on the game. You don't have to focus on what you're going to be eating, where you're going to be sleeping, and other places like that. So.
Although it was interesting last season, the last couple of years, Salisbury's been almost unbeatable. But last year, boy, I'm telling you, York had a heck of a team.
Yeah, York was real talented last year. Even gave Salisbury a run for their money, but
yep.
Salisbury obviously going undefeated and then to win the national championship for the 2nd year in a row.
Knights almost had the takeaway there. Maxfield batting it up in the air. Knights still looking to hold on to this lead and get a takeaway with only a 2-goal lead here, 6-4. Little pick play there by Cazanovia.
Looks like they called it a move and pick. Got to be standing still when you make contact with the defensive player.
Knights quickly on the attack, trying to get that 3-goal lead back. So for this particular play, they've got Garf behind the cage right now, and Lamb over on the right side, Schmidt on the left, and Bean out front. What's your thoughts, too, on number 10, Tennyson Schmidt? Not a whole lot of size there at 5'10", 140, but I'll tell you, he got his season off to a fantastic start in that first win against Ferrum.
Yeah, talking with Coach Jacques Mercer, he'll say that Tennyson Schmidt is probably the most accurate shooter they have on the team, where he's really able to put every single one of his shots right within the lining of the goal. Really tough for goalkeepers to save. Plus, he's very athletic, very agile, and a very talented dodger. So, well-rounded player in Tennyson Schmidt.
How important is size, though? You compare the stature of Tennyson Schmidt at 5'10" and 140, and you compare it to a guy like Casey Rich the past couple of years, obviously drastically different.
Yeah, absolutely. And just different styles of play. A guy the size of Casey Rich is able to use his body to create space. To where a 5'9", 5'10", 140-pound attackman is going to have to use his feet to get his hands free. So lacrosse being a sport where size, you can get away with being a little smaller, but you definitely have to be more athletic and more agile. So got to work on have nice footwork.
Knights led 4-2 at the end of one. Each team scored a couple of goals here in this second period, and right now it just seems like the offenses have kind of got a little bit more passive here in the second quarter.
Yeah, getting more passive, and I think you're starting to see some stronger defense from both teams. So
good block there by Arve on the shot taken from the right side by Joe Tim. And Arve looks pretty good in goal today.
yeah, he's definitely making the saves he needs to be making, and he's getting a little more support from his defense, which is what you want to ask for as a goalkeep. So they're playing further out, forcing farther out shots, which allow Arve to to see the ball all the way to his cross. So
Knights would like to score a couple more goals as they close in on halftime. Shot taken.
that was Tennyson Schmidt from way outside. Caught Cazanovia sleeping.
And he's got his 17th goal of the season.
Like I said, this attack unit is the most talented and well versed that the Knights have ever had as an organization. With having everybody getting equally involved, which is great to see as a guy who was on a team when most of the scoring was done by 2 to 3 guys on the offense.
Yeah, there was a time, like I say, a couple of years ago, yourself, Casey Rich, good, obviously doing a lot of the scoring, but 2 years ago they really had, with Daneman and Kimber and yourself and Casey Rich and Anthony Good, they had a lot of offensive weapons, and this is kind of like what this team reminds me of.
Right, absolutely, and I think they have a little better leadership this year with Sean Lamb taking the reins of the offense, being the coach's son.
Yep.
I think he's able to dial in this and help everybody use their talent to the best of their abilities, and I've been real impressed with Sean's performance this year. So
well, the Knights have that 3-goal lead back with 2:40 to go till halftime. Another timeout is going to be taken by Cazenovia, and I'm sure the Wildcats want to make sure this stays close, 2 to 3 goals as opposed to 4 to 5 goals at halftime.
no, absolutely. If Cazenovia wants to stay in this game, they definitely need to not allow the Knights to tally more than one goal this rest of the quarter. So
Well, volleyball was able to win its match last night, Friday night, against Messiah in straight sets. So they're now 14-6 on the season. Men's volleyball only actually has 4 matches left on the season, 3 at home and 1 on the road at Marymount. And they're looking better and better as far as their chances of making the conference tournament in just their first year in the Continental Volleyball Conference.
and that's another great example of the growth of this university. They're definitely putting more focus into athletics and allowing to bring in great coaches like like Nancy Weber and like Tony Caputo and all these other coaches that are really bringing out the best in all the Knights athletics.
Yeah, we talked about women's lacrosse trying to win its first conference game in the Capital Conference, something that softball is also hoping to do this season. Softball now 7-9 on the season after splitting with Maine Presque Isle on Friday, and their conference schedule actually doesn't start until the end of March, and their first home conference doubleheader will not be until early April. But again, wouldn't that be something this year, this spring, if both the women's lacrosse and softball can pick up conference victories, not just one, but maybe multiple conference wins?
Yeah, that would definitely show the growth that I was talking about earlier in the university, and I think the university as a whole is on track to making those those kind of jumps in all their competitions. So it's exciting to see, definitely. As
admissions numbers are going up, so I'm sure that's going to have a positive effect too, also on athletics.
No, absolutely. Admission numbers are going up. Retention, student retention is going up. Where in the past, you'd have a team of 30, 40 guys, and come spring or the next semester, you'd have 12 guys just given either honor code violations or people leaving the university as a whole. I think the university is making some great changes, and they're definitely starting to bring in the right-minded people that they're able to have success. So.
And I don't know if we're ever going to get to the point where perhaps 100% across the board on any one given roster, depending on the sport, I guess, where you're going to have players that play as freshmen and are there 4 years later as seniors, as opposed to taking that 1 to 2 year break.
Right. Well, even having that 1 to 2 year break with the LDS mission, you'll still get the guys like the Peyton Kimber and the Zach Dannemans to come back. And once you get those guys coming back, you can start building your 3-4 year rosters to where you're having a team that has the experience to compete with the Salisburys and the Christopher Newports and the Yorks.
Pass was behind number 5 there, a Lamb, and as a result, it resulted in a turnover. Knights were headed on the attack there, Ryan, with under a minute 30 to go, and suddenly it's the shoes on the other foot, and it's Cazanovia ball.
Yeah, and just like all season, these middle of the field clearing turnovers are gonna, you can't have those and win big games.
And that particular turnover really wasn't a whole lot of pressure. The Knights could have taken their time working the ball upfield.
No, that definitely was a lack in composure. Kind of casual, casual on the pass, so it was a little behind. Still a catchable ball, but casual on the catch, and resulted in a turnover.
Now we'll see if Cazenovia is going to be conservative and try to run the clock down while also looking for a good shot. Now they have a turnover too, potentially. Scramble for the ball. Wildcats still have it, though, with 30 on the clock. So the Knights looks like they're going to have to be content just to play good defense and try to go in with a 7-4 lead at halftime. See if the Wildcats get a good shot off here in the final few seconds. They got an opening across the middle. Good save by Arve, and that'll do it. What a fantastic save at the very end by Arve. Cazanovia able to score, but it's obviously 2 to 3 seconds after the clock had gone to 0.
That's a big victory by the defense right there. Able to force, far shots where Arve's able to get a piece of it, and you end the half with a 3-goal lead.
So we are at halftime here from Knight Stadium, and Southern Virginia on top, with the Knights leading Cazanovia College 7-4. We'll take a break here from the fields at Southern Virginia University. Welcome back to Knights Lacrosse. We are ready to go. Third quarter action after halftime. Southern Virginia on top of Cazanovia, 7-4. I'm Jim Bresnahan, joined by Ryan Larson, and second half play is ready to get underway. The Knights actually outscored Cazanovia, Ryan, in that second quarter, 3-2. Even though Cazanovia, the Wildcats, really dominated in a lot of categories in that second period, including face-offs, and they just picked up another one.
Yeah, you're definitely starting to see some more poise and some composure from this Knights offense. Looking at the stats from the first half, all but one of the goals that the Knights scored were assisted, which is something that we haven't seen in the past.
Yeah, Brady Lamb had 3 assists in the first half, and Garf had 3 goals.
Right. And Sean Lamb actually is leading the team in points, mostly because of his ability to find scores, which is a statistic he didn't have last year. He was more of a goal scorer last year, and it's nice to see him really playing a role as a feeder.
Yeah, Sean Lamb had 3 assists in that first half. We mentioned that Garf had 3 goals, and Schmidt had a goal. Jace Thomas had a goal after winning a face-off. Good. And also Carter Bean had a couple of goals between them.
Yep. Appears we have a slashing penalty. We're going to get another look at this Cazenovia extra man unit.
How have the Knights done this season in their extra man unit situation?
They've done all right. They have a lot of, their extra man unit is full of freshmen, so they make some freshman-like mistakes, forcing passes they shouldn't be making. They're definitely not performing the way that they want to be performing. So penalties on senior defenseman Colin Maxfield, who leads the team in penalties and penalty minutes served.
And how has the Knights' defense, in your estimation, been so far this year? Down a man, really trying just to protect the lead and not allow a goal when the other team's got the advantage.
They've struggled just as their defensive as a whole has struggled. They're really good at getting on ball during man down opportunities, but their team defense, they have holes in their backside. So
we'll see some of the defenders out there now, including Jacob Land and number 22, Brady Cook. He's a junior.
And they gave Brady Cook a long pull this possession. Oh, they're actually 2-man down.
Yeah, we had a couple of penalty flags. So we'll see if the Wildcats could take advantage. They almost have to, down by 3. Good save by Arve again.
You got to question that shot, but, they're still able to back it up. But, oh, nope, it'll be a turnover. That's not the shot you want to take when you have a 2-man possession. Risky
pass.
Pass.
A lot of physical play allowed there as the Knights are able to gain possession. Now we do have a penalty flag.
There'll be 2 penalty flags.
See if the Knights can score despite the flag. Take advantage of it.
The Knights will have technically a free play where any stoppage in play or a turnover will result in will activate the penalty flag. So look for some patience, and they'll try to get a high-scoring, high-opportunity look. So,
with a 3-goal lead, too, they're also helping to burn, if it's not a critical factor, but maybe burning some clock here, too.
Yeah, you have an opportunity to kill 30 seconds, kill a minute. Time is your ally right now. It's the enemy of the team that's losing. So you got the lead. You might as well kill some clock.
Good rotational passing. Bean's shot was blocked away.
Yeah, it was a good shot, and that'll activate the penalty.
Knights have to feel pretty good after those penalties to be in this kind of position here on the offensive end, as opposed to giving up a goal and having their lead cut to 2.
No, that was a good stop by the defense. You're 2-man down, and you force Cazenovia to take a bad shot. Your goalie makes a good save, and then you get the ball. So that was a great stand by the defense.
Cazenovia once again had scored the game's first goal. Since then, they've been outscored 7-3. Arve's made several saves.
Now we're going to get a look at the Knights extra man unit.
how will they offensively attack this Cazanovia defense any differently, I guess, than when everybody's got equal numbers?
So again, it's going to be another two-man down, or they're going to be two-man up. So they're going to really move the ball fast, try and get a skip lane open and get a wide open backside shot.
Looking for an opening right now. They give to Garf. Over the middle to Good. He tried to push that shot in. It was blocked away.
Still able to retain possession, so that wasn't a bad look.
Lamb to Bean. And Bean fires it.
Absolutely buries it. Well, they took advantage of the two-man down, or the two-man man-up opportunity, and that was a good backside feed to Carter Bean, adding another assisted goal.
And that's his second goal of the game, 13th of the season. And so now the Knights have actually their biggest lead of the contest so far, 8-4, on top here by 4. Knights have really not dominated when it comes to winning draws here, Ryan, and still they've got a 4-goal lead.
Yeah, that just shows that you're having good, strong, solid defensive play, and you're getting good play from your goalkeep, and that'll help you bail out your face-off guy. But going forward, Jace is going to have to do something, make some changes when they come into the meat of their conference, when they have, Salisbury coming up at March 31st.
You mentioned you took some draws too last year. Now, I mean, do you just really not worry about who your opponent is, or will your strategy and tactics kind of really depend on who's across from you?
No, it definitely depends on who's across from you. If you're facing a guy who has really quick hands, then you need to do more of a defensive move. Really prep for him to get the ball and make sure that they don't win the ball easy forward, which creates a transition opportunity. Which I think Jace has struggled with this year. Definitely struggled against Christopher Newport and Merchant Marine, where they were able to both tally two goals right off of the face-offs. You definitely need to take into consideration the guy you're facing off against.
Cazenovia goes right to left, tries the shot over the head of Arve. That's out pacing right now. Cazenovia 12-9 when it comes to shots on goal, and an 8-4 goal lead here. 4-goal lead right now for the Knights. It's their biggest advantage so far today. And of course, only the third quarter, so a 4 or 5 goal lead really isn't going to become a huge factor for Cazenovia until maybe you get a little deeper into the fourth quarter.
No, definitely. Lacrosse is for sure a game of momentum where you can score 2 to 3, 4 goals in a matter of minutes. So, although the Knights have the lead, the game is definitely not won yet.
So do the players ever relax when they get a 4 or 5 goal lead, thinking, we give up one, we get one, we're in a pretty good position?
I'm sure it happens. You definitely don't want that to happen. I think when you allow that to happen is when you allow comebacks. So I think they need to play like it's 0-0 and keep their foot on the pedal, score some goals, get some stops, play aggressive, and then they just need to figure out the face-off X.
And right now the Knights defense is hoping for a takeaway with a 4-goal lead as Cazenovia gets a pass across the middle. Great stop again by Arve down low, and that shot goes off to the right.
Yeah. Ian Arve definitely bailed him out there. That was a great kick save.
He's really only had one shot that might have been unstoppable. That pass was right towards the middle. Boy, how did that defender or the Wildcat get that open over on the right side of the goal?
Just a lapse in defense, I think. Miscommunication, and you allow guys to get open backside, and without ball pressure, you're able to find that guy backside, and he's able to put it away. So you got to give your goalie a break. It's almost impossible to get those stops right on the doorsteps.
In doing soccer webcasts last fall, we talked about the goalkeepers, how important it is, and maybe it depends on their personality, how loud they are, what their personality might be, or how much talking they're going to do to the defenders in front of them. How important is that in lacrosse?
Oh, it's really important. The goalie definitely helps, point out where the ball is, but that goal right there has definitely got to be fall onto the defense, especially that backside defender who just fell asleep, and Cazanovia was able to take advantage of that.
Looked like for a second there Jace Thomas was going to come away with it, lost it. Cazanovia trying to maintain control of the ball.
A little physical play. I'm surprised there wasn't a call. But Cazanovia will maintain possession.
Wildcats were down by 4 just a few seconds ago. Got that 5th goal to make it 8-5, and now trying to go on the attack again. Joe Tim, number 44, with the ball. And he's got some pretty good size too at 6 foot 210.
Mm. There was another instance where the Knights kind of fell asleep backside, and Cazenovia was able to fire a good shot in a good position. So they got to really watch that backside and get some more ball pressure on the Dodger.
See Maxfield trying to swat at the ball, jarred loose.
See, that's good defense.
Toffaletti out there along with Gardner. Some of the defenders trying to make sure Cazenovia doesn't score twice in a row. Don't think the Knights have allowed 2 straight goals today. They've done a pretty good job after Cazenovia scored to really go back on offense. Nice pass right in the middle. And Arve somehow makes the save.
It was just a rush shot by the shooter. He definitely had time to change his plane, but
yeah, it looked like he had an extra second or two. He could have maybe taken another step or two before firing that shot.
Could have gotten closer, could have thrown a stick fake, could have shot it low, but he shot it right at the goalie stick. That was good on Ian for staying big and keeping his eye on the ball, so able to come away with the big save. And sometimes your goalie's able to bail you out, even though you slip up on defense.
So we'll see if the Knights could take advantage of Arve's save by scoring on the other end. Bean, who's got a couple of goals, over to Veras. Schmidt is behind the goal right now. Lamb over on the left side.
Cazanovia's kind of playing an interesting in-tight defense, kind of forcing the Knights to move the ball outside.
They're really not pressuring Lamb when he gets it behind the goal.
No, not really ball pressure in any, but except directly in front of the goal. But it worked right there and forced the turnover.
Yep. So the Knights still have a 3-goal lead here, Ryan, but you really don't want to have mistakes like that.
No, you can't have mistakes like that. I mean, especially in a game a game that's close, and when you're coming up to your CAC conference play, where a team, if you turn the ball over, can score 5 seconds after you turn it over, you definitely don't want to be turning the ball over.
Knights quickly on the attack, getting a shot on the other end, but blocked away by the Cazenovia goalkeeper. Well, the Knights were able to go on offense and get that shot off in a matter of seconds.
Get another look at that second-line midfielder. Second-line midfield unit. Now, a player who's actually impressed me a lot this season has been Cade Rich, who hasn't really been playing much of a star role, but he's been a really strong Dodger, high-percentage shooter. I believe he has 5 or 6 goals on this season.
Yeah, 6 to be exact, yep.
So, I mean, he's played really well considering last year he struggled a little bit, had some confidence issues, but he's definitely been a great factor in this second-line midfield unit.
Lamb looking for an opening on the right side, draws a double team, throws a high pass to Cade Rich over his head. Cade right there, able to scoop it back up, though. Cade is 6 foot 205. Great pass.
Oh,
what happened there to Tennyson Schmidt?
I think the soggy weather outside is starting to play an effect to some of these player sticks, where they're not throwing or shooting as consistent as they would be if it was dry outside.
Might still have it. They're burning a little clock here. Still trying to get into position to take that 4-goal lead again. So they got Lamb behind the goal this time, but still, and he's able to sneak through for the goal. I was about to say that Cazanovia just for some reason doesn't want to pressure him back there, and they really paid the price that time.
Right, and like I said all game, I think that's an interesting choice by Cazanovia to not pressure him, where he's able to, really work, get his hands free for either a shot or keep his head up and find the open shooter backside. So that'll be Sean's fourth or fifth point this game so far, and he's having a great game.
First goal, and maybe that's 19 for the season, I think.
Yeah.
Has several assists today. And the beat remains the same here, Ryan. Anytime Cazenovia able to score, it seems like the Knights come right back and don't allow Cazenovia to go on any kind of scoring streak.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want to see from your offense. You kind of bailing out your defense and your face-off guy by not turning the ball over.
Quickly ahead, and the shot by Schmidt is blocked. Boy, Tennyson Schmidt had a good look that time.
And there was another instance where he kind of rushed the shot. He probably had another second to where he could have taken his time, got a better step in, and, aimed the ball into a better place. But, again, it's wet outside. He probably shooting a little inconsistent given the wet conditions outside.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder, and maybe it varies play by play. Sometimes I guess you got that decision. Do you want to take the snapshot? Maybe the goalkeeper isn't ready, or do you take that extra second and maybe use it to kind of fake the goalkeeper out?
Definitely, you definitely could use that as a shooting tool. A lot of players will do that where they can kind of freeze the goalie and then shoot it in a different place. That's called a hit shot.
Lamb tries the shot from the right side and gets knocked to the turf.
It was a little late, but I don't think the refs. I don't think it was. I think they're ruling that as incidental. So.
Knights still have possession. This is Tennyson Schmidt with it. Now Lamb out in the top of the key. From the top, tries a grounding shot and scores. Wow, how about that shot?
Yeah, I'm really interested. The defense for Cazenovia is kind of confusing me. They didn't even pressure him out. Rashawn was able to walk in to 10 yards above the goal, and when you're a good shooter like Sean Lamb, you'll put that away any given day. So
is that more apt to be their strategy, or is that just a sign of a lack of maybe some fatigue showing? I guess
I don't know. I mean, it's been all game. He hasn't really been pressured, so it looks like it's strategy, but. I think maybe you force the outside shot and you have a little more faith in your goalkeep, but he hasn't been making those saves. So I think as Cazenovia needs to change their strategy to get on those Knights shooters outside of 10 yards.
And for the first time today, the Knights actually have a 5-goal lead, their biggest lead so far, 10-5, under the 4-minute mark here in the third quarter. Good defense there by Schmidt to come from behind and jar the ball loose. Knights quickly on the attack. Nice pass, and they score. Lamb again, and he was just basically wide open down by the goal on the right side.
That was a good feed by Brady Cook, a good hustle play by Tennyson Schmidt, who was able to, once the faceoff was won and was released from the restraining box, he hustled up and turned the ball over from the Cazenovia faceoff man, which allowed Brady Cook to scoop the ball up and take it right to Sean Lamb, wide open backside.
So instead of Cazenovia bringing it down to the offensive end, really in a matter of seconds, it goes from near midfield all the way to the goal, and that's where Sean Lamb converts his second goal of the game, and I believe that'll be his 20th on the season. And now the Knights have a 6-goal lead, and that's pretty substantial lead right now here, Ryan, even though we still have the entire fourth quarter to go.
No, this is definitely where you want to be late in the third. You're up by 6. Things are starting to go your way. You're winning faceoffs. Offense is playing well. Defense is playing well. So this is exactly where you want to be.
And Lamb, you can see it again. He's got it behind. No one there to stop him. And that shot is taken by Cook and missed. He had a great look.
Yeah, he definitely had a good look.
It almost looked like he had a hard time getting it out.
No, and I know Brady, especially being the past few years being an offensive player, recently this year playing moved to more of a defensive role, he definitely going to want that back.
Lamb getting challenged a little bit for the first time today from behind.
I think maybe we'll finally see a change in strategy from Cazanovia.
Might be too late, though. You still have, obviously, about 18 minutes to go in the game, but now it's a 6-goal advantage for the Knights. And they're watching Lamb from back there, but not really challenging him. Garf goes over to Bean, takes the shot over to the right and missed it.
That's perfect. You force the refs to not enforce the shot clock. You're getting good looks.
Freshman goalkeeper back there now is Hurlbut, a little less size. Lamb being challenged behind now.
Seems like Jason Lamb will take a timeout and talk things over.
2:27 to go. Knights with a 6-goal advantage here in the third quarter. And it's been a pretty good third quarter for the Knights, outscoring Cazenovia here. It was 7-4 at halftime, so they've outscored them 4-1 in the third period.
No, we're definitely starting to see some more composure and confidence by the offense, getting more people involved. Sean Lamb's definitely having a great game, tallying 3 goals and what I think 4 assists so far this game, and that's the kind of play you want to see from your offensive leader. And then you tally Seth Garf having 3 goals and Tennyson Schmidt putting up some points. Definitely going to boost some confidence as you get later on into the meat of the CAC conference play.
And Coach Lamb's got to be impressed with the goalkeeping duties of Arve today. He's made several nice saves.
Yeah, no, Ian's been playing really well today. Usually they've been gone with Boston Chrysler this year, but talking with Coach Mercer, they decided to split time, make things more competitive, and Ian Arve is playing some of the better games he's played in his career.
Yeah, you look at the stats. Chrysler has played in 7 games. Arve, with this one, is playing in his 5th game. And Chrysler's 3-2, and Arve 1-0, and hopefully he'll be 2-0 after today.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. And you can't blame a lot of goals on Chrysler. There's been a lot of lapses in defense this season. They've struggled defensively. Were a lot of goals, especially against Christopher Newport and Merchant Marine, were wide open backside, and that's really hard to make a save as a goalkeeper when you're facing a shooter right on the doorstep.
Well, that CNU game really had to be something else. I know there was a lot of expectations and hopes for the payback for having been knocked out by those guys in the tournament the last 2 years, and both teams were 4-0, and CNU, as we mentioned, just got on top early.
No, CNU came out firing. They scored within the first 5 seconds of the game right off the faceoff, and set the tone really for the rest of the game, where it was almost a one-sided show until CNU decided to put in their third-string players.
Garth with a shot from outside and scores. Now 12-5 Knights.
That'll be Garth's 4th goal on the game.
And on that particular play, it looked to me like, Ryan, that was just a heck of a play by Garth to catch that pass and be in a position a split second later to fire the shot.
No, watching him play this season, he has a really quick release where he's able to catch even a bad pass. He's able to handle it, bring it in, get his hands in a shooting position, and fire a shot within a matter of seconds, which is what you want to have as an offensive player.
And the Cazanovia defense all day long has not really challenged the player who's behind the goal, and they really haven't been able to really challenge those passes across the middle.
Nope, not really, not at all. We're about 90% of SVU's goals are assisted.
So 12-5, Knights with their biggest lead so far, 7 goals now. And the Knights have been able to put up, I believe, 4 straight goals after Cazanovia got within 8-5, and another takeaway by Tennyson Schmidt.
That was a real smart play by the freshman.
Now, if you're the Knights here, especially as you get deeper into the fourth quarter, do you take some time off the clock, or do you just really continue with your normal offense?
I think you continue with the normal offense, clear until the end of the game. this allows the Knights to practice, tone in some of their skills, start making some of the mistakes that they've made all season.
That time Garf was trying to go right to left over to Schmidt, and it was a takeaway by Cazanovia. Ooh, some violent collision there involving Carter Bean.
Surprising, most officials will throw. Oh, yep, there's a flag on the ground. That's what I expected. When you take one hand off your stick to do a swing like that, usually about 90% of the time you're going to draw a flag.
Another flag is thrown. So it looks like the Knights are going to be 2 men down.
Yeah, seems like midfielder's going to be shaken up. I can't see the number on that.
Yeah, that's Tim, I think, 44, who's maybe got a goal or two today for the Cazenovia Wildcats.
Yeah, looks like he took a stick to his knee or something like that. He's favoring his left leg. A series of flags on the ground, so this will be interesting to see.
So Coach Lamb talking it over with Carter Bean, who I believe maybe drew the first penalty.
Yep. So the Knights will be 2 man down again.
And we'll see if the Cazenovia Wildcats could take advantage of these numbers. And they almost have to at this particular point of the match here, Ryan, down by 7 goals.
No, they definitely have to take advantage of this opportunity. They don't necessarily have to score at the end of this period, but they definitely need to either score or retain possession so that they can start the half with the ball. And that's what it looks like they're going to do. They're just going to hold on to the ball so they can start the fourth quarter with the ball without having to face off.
The clock's going to run down here in the third quarter. The Knights have outscored Cazenovia in this third quarter with 7-4 at halftime, so they have a great third quarter, outscoring the Wildcats 5-1 in that third quarter to go from a 3-goal lead at halftime to a 7-goal lead as we'll start the fourth quarter here in a matter of minutes.
And that was a heads-up play by the Cazanovian coaching staff. Instead of forcing a shot within those 22 seconds, turning the ball over or putting the ball on the ground and allowing for the Knights to win a face-off and then kill the penalty. So now the Wildcats will start the quarter with the ball and be able to take full opportunity of the penalties.
Yeah, the Knights are hoping to pick up their second home win of the season, even their home record at 2-2. As we mentioned, they have a 2-game losing streak at home by having those 2 losses back-to-back earlier in March to Christopher Newport and Merchant Marine. Knights are coming off a couple of road games, losing at Rhodes 8-7 and then winning at Hendricks on Tuesday. And this is the first of 3 straight home games for the Knights. When you look at the schedule, they host Bridgewater Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, and then a week from today they host Marymount in another Capital Athletic Conference game. As we mentioned, after Bridgewater on Wednesday, they're all Capital Conference games the rest of the way.
Yep, and like I was saying, the Knights have to win at least 3 of those games to qualify for the CAC tournament.
Well, the way I was looking at the schedule is just win those 3 home games and then just try to take, 1 out of 4, maybe ideally 2 out of 4 on the road.
Right.
And I would think Coach Lamb would be utterly pleased if they could win those 3 home games and then maybe perhaps win 2 out of 4 on the road.
Now, these next home games, they're very winnable games, but they definitely need to tighten some things up, especially when they go playing against Bridgewater or a Marymount.
Colin Maxfield is trying to get it upfield to a teammate. Lamb somehow got it and got the pass over to Schmidt, and Schmidt is the goal scorer that time. Tennyson Schmidt, and boy, the Knights were able to move it upfield, Ryan, and boy, in an instant, Lamb had it and then fired it over to Schmidt on the left side, and the goalkeeper, Hurlbutt, had no chance on that one.
No, and I'm going to give the credit to defenseman Colin Maxfield on, putting the ball on the ground, picking up the ground ball in contested, and then getting the ball up to Sean Lamb, who was able to find Tennyson Schmidt for the goal.
Considering the numbers, that was amazing, astounding.
No, that was fantastic. That definitely confidence crusher for the Wildcats. I believe that was Sean's 10th point on the game.
He's got 4 or 5 assists now, as well as several goals. And I believe Schmidt, that was his second or third goal of the game. He came in with 16 goals on the season, so he's up to 18 or 19 goals for the season now. That time, Jace Thomas won the draw, brought it upfield, and had the pass deflected as he tried to hit Garf.
Correction, that was Sean's 9th point on the game.
Got to please Coach Lamb to see Sean not only score goals, but set other people up for scoring goals.
I think that's got to be his role going forward, as he's, being the CAC Rookie of the Year. You're going to draw a better defenseman, and you're always going to draw a slide, especially if you're as agile and as good, as strong a dodger as Sean is. You're able to draw a slide, and his ability to read the slide and keep his head up and find the shooter is great. And I think if he can work on that skill, that'll be a attribute that will benefit the Knights' offense as they move forward.
Yeah, I'm assuming even if he's doing more assisting than goal scoring, he's still going to draw some of the top defenders, as Lamb scores from behind the goal again. Oh, that was Schmidt.
Yeah, that was Schmidt for
Schmidt from behind the goal.
4th.
And again, as we saw, the Cazanovia really not challenging any of the Knights who are behind the goal right now.
Right.
And it certainly has had a big impact, especially here in the second half, as the Knights have outscored Cazanovia now in the second half 7-1 after it was 7-4 in the first half. So getting back to Lamb, again, with his assisting and his ability to score goals, whether he's actually doing the goal scoring or just doing the setting up, I would imagine he's going to draw some of the top defenders.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although the Knights have shown the ability to score from anywhere on the field, and not just guys like Lamb and Schmidt, but of course Garf too, and others like Anthony Good and Bean and Veras. So this really has to present a challenge to some of these Capital Athletic Conference defenses.
Yeah, it definitely does. When you have multiple guys that can score, it definitely makes it harder to defend. Unlike teams in the past where we've had, 2 to 3 guys who carry the weight of the offense. Teams are able to shut them down, and once you shut down those 2 to 3 players, you shut down their whole offense. So it's definitely nice to see more people getting involved. Even players like Jace Thomas off the face-off. I believe he has 3 to 4 goals of this season, and has one tonight, unassisted straight from the face-off. So
He's had 2 or 3 occasions where he's actually won the face-off and brought it deep upfield, including one time where he scored the goal.
Right.
Going forward after Arve's performance today, do you expect them to continue to rotate goalkeepers, especially once they get into really the meat of the Capital Conference schedule?
I don't know if you rotate them in games, but I definitely think you rotate them in practice. You definitely got to create that competition. That's the only way you're going to get the best performance out of both Preisler and Ian Arve. So you definitely got to rotate them. Competition breeds success, so.
Knights trying to take home this victory. Thomas trying to win the draw, but left the circle basically without the ball. Scramble for the ball, and Thomas has it.
Very nice.
And now we're going to see with this big lead if the Knights just keep on going offensively after the goalkeeper Herbert for Cazenovia, or if they do try to take a little time off, as Garf has it right now to Schmidt. Now Lamb behind the goal, not really being pressured too much. K. Ridge had it, lost it. Good defense there by Maxfield. Cazenovia really battled the Knights in the first half. It was only 7-4 at halftime, but it's been a completely different story here in the second half. That third quarter was really dominated by the Knights. Down by 9 goals, right? It almost looks like Cazanovia is almost conceding this game to the Knights and really not worried too much about the scoreboard.
I would highly doubt that. Being a competitive athlete myself, I never once, even getting my butt kicked in a game, I've never once laid down wanting to just concede a game. I think they're starting to be more patient, hopefully not trying to turn the ball over. The Knights have definitely played some lockdown defense in the second half, and I think they're just trying to figure out ways to penetrate it. So
Maxfield, a good defense there to knock the ball loose. But the Wildcats are still going to have it with 11:26 to go. The Knights' defense has really been solid here in the second half. Again, they've only allowed 1 goal after it was 7-4 at halftime. Another good save by Arve.
no, I've been real impressed with his play today.
Lamb's got it out front for the Knights, who lead by 9. Good pass to Schmidt. Now Garf behind the goal. You look ahead to April the 14th. That last home game against Wesley will wind up being senior day, and a few seniors on this team, including number 27 you see right there, Anthony Good. What a career he has had here playing men's lacrosse, Ryan, even though, as you mentioned earlier, I think he's been really battling injuries over his career from off and on.
Yeah, he had an ankle injury that really kept him out of most of last year. Still had a strong performance, coming in, playing attack, scoring 8 goals against St. Mary's, which was a conference game. He like you said, he's had a really good career here, and unfortunately, he hasn't been 100% since last year.
Penalty on the Knights there.
Yeah, seems to be shaking up on the play, getting up slow.
Defense penalty called against Brad Gardner, the freshman, 6'2", 180 out of Spanish Fork, Utah. That's really only about the only category I think the Knights have really lost today, and that's maybe been the penalties.
Yeah, penalties. They're definitely aggressive play, but that's how it's been for the past few years. We have always been plagued with penalties. Definitely things we got to work on when they coming up against the big three of the CAC with York, Frostburg, and Salisbury coming up.
Yeah, the Knights have actually played pretty well when they've been down a couple of players, but as you mentioned, I think against Cazanovia and against Salisbury are really radically two different things.
Very different.
Good pass across the middle, and finally a goal for Cazanovia. And that was a tough shot for Arve to contend as the Cazanovia player came from behind the goal, got the pass, and he was on top of the goalkeeper before Arve even knew he was there.
No, that was a great play. He even threw in a head, shoulder, and a stick fake, getting RV out of position. He was able to bury the ball. Good look, good feed, and good finish.
So now 14-6 is your score. Still a commanding 8-goal lead right now for the Knights.
The Knights need to be careful here that they're not playing too casual. This game is definitely not out of reach for Cazanovia to come back and win this game. Good face-off by Jace Thomas.
But it also shows the importance of not, and this is something Coach Lamb talked about last year, as the Knights were able to get possession right back, but you got to be able to win the face-offs and maintain possession all the way till you're able to either score a goal, obviously, or get that ball to a teammate.
Right. And I just want to note that'll be the third hustle turnover caused by Tennyson Schmidt off of a face-off loss. Been really impressed with his riding ability.
Lamb had the shot that time that was blocked. You like that kind of hustle by Schmidt. That's the kind of thing that can really win you games, to force other teams' turnovers.
Knights in the final 10 seconds of their time that they have to clear. Or not the Knights, the Wildcats. Yep, and that'll be a failure to advance.
So the Knights quickly back the other way in a hurry.
Just a very aggressive and very aggressive ride by the Knights, forcing the turnover, and a great shot by Seth Garf, just missing over the crossbar.
Of course, that is another area, I guess, that's sometimes not appreciated when it comes to being a good lacrosse player, and that is just really good conditioning. And it really comes to play, especially in the fourth quarter.
No, and that's definitely a great addition that Southern Virginia University has had, is their strength and conditioning and their athlete performance programs, where they, they're training with really experienced coaches, almost every day, which plays an effect in these long games.
How about that shot out front by the freshman Toffeletti? And let's see, I think that'll be his first goal of the season.
Yep, that's what it looks like.
And with this big lead, Coach Lamb's got a chance to work in some new players on offense and see how they do. And Toffeletti that time from way outside able to score.
Yep, that was the first look that we've got of this third-line midfielder.
So the Knights have their biggest lead of the game again at 9 goals. Had it at 14-5, now 15-6. See some new numbers, new faces out there as Thomas wins the draw again, including Patrick Reese and also number 6, Dominic King. Now Cade Rich has it way outside. Knights have really expanded this circle, Ryan. It almost looks like they're working the clock just a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, they'll probably try and kill a minute, and then they'll set up into their offense position as they're doing right now.
Cade Rich with the shot blocked away.
Yeah, a little unsure about that shot, but such a high-scoring game. I'm sure Cade just wanted to get his.
They go to Lamb. Nice pass over to Good, and Anthony Good scores. That's his second goal today.
Yep, and that's actually where Anthony Good, that's his area of expertise, where he scored most of his goals in his career is right there on the crease. He has very quick hands, very talented at catching and finishing the ball.
And good size at 5'9", 220.
No, absolutely.
They don't call that camping, do they? As in other sports, I guess.
Right, almost cherry picking. No, that was a good play. It seems to be that they are switching out the attack unit
Although that was, again, another good assist by Lamb, too, from behind.
Yep, that'll be his 10th point on the game. It's an outstanding performance by sophomore Sean Lamb.
And the Knights now have their biggest lead at 10 at 16-6. A 9-2 advantage here for the Knights in the second half after it was 7-4 at halftime. And Jace Thomas looked like he had won it, but penalty is called.
And that'll be his third violation, so he will. That will be a 30-second penalty.
Was that a matter of going too quick?
Yeah, he just a hair ahead of the whistle. He seemed to be frustrated with the call, but
did you try to do that a whole lot when you were taking draws?
I think you try to time it as close to the whistle as possible, especially if it's the same ref blowing or same official that's blowing the face-offs.
Yeah.
You try to time their whistles.
And I'm guessing certain ones will call it a little tighter than others.
Yeah. And with the new rule, with all the new face-off rule changes in the past 2 to 3 years, the refs have been taught to, really change up their whistle cadence to, so that face-off men can't, time their face-off whistles. So
that's good defense that time. Takeaway by Gardner.
You can definitely tell that the Wildcats are a little frustrated and playing a little frantic offense right now.
Yeah, they've had several penalties, and they've been up on the man advantage on several different occasions and just haven't been able to take advantage of it.
Nope, just throwing the ball away quick, which is not what you want to do when you're down and have a man-up opportunity.
And now Reese up the right side. Drops it off.
And DeJarlis will draw a penalty of him.
Nice pass across the middle by Good, and he got it right over to Tafaletti, who not only had his first goal just a few minutes ago, but now he just picked up his second goal of the season. And a nice assist by Anthony Good.
That was a good look. Tafaletti was able to get wide open right in front of the goal, and Good with his head up was able to find him. Seems like this game is starting to get out of reach for the Wildcats.
And we'll see on Wednesday, Ryan, if the Knights are able to build upon this impressive performance today against the Wildcats when they host Bridgewater Wednesday at 7 p.m.
Right, and like I've said earlier, Bridgewater's been a team that the Knights have always had trouble with. In fact, last year was the first year that they beat them, and it was in an overtime.
Then a week from today, they get Marymount. Marymount coming into the action today with an overall record of 2-5. So the Knights now on top by 11. And they've had 10 goals here in the second half, 7 at halftime. And Thomas wins yet another draw here in the second half.
Knights are going to call a timeout and talk things over a little bit. Well, it's good to see Jace Thomas winning some faceoffs. Definitely what you want to see out of your faceoff guy, building some confidence, especially when you're coming up into the biggest games of your season.
And it looks like, I believe they've made a change of goal and brought in Preisler maybe for the final few minutes to get him some playing time. Looks like Arve maybe is out of there, but we'll see if he goes back in. But Ian Arve has really made some nice saves today. He's had good defense in front of him, too. Yeah, it looks like he's going to be in position now to pick up his second win of the season. Preisler came in with a record of 3-2 personally himself. You mentioned, too, Ryan, that Bridgewater has really been a tough opponent. In fact, we talked about it. The Knights have had some tough times over the last couple of years. Had some close games, but some close losses to some of these schools out of the ODAC.
No, the ODAC is a very talented, it's a very talented, strong conference. You got teams like Lynchburg, who a few years ago was the national runners-up.
Yeah, WNL.
Yeah, Washington and Lee. You got Roanoke College. Hampton, Sydney.
Yep.
So there's a good, solid group of teams in the ODAC as well as the CAC.
Although I would imagine the CAC is just a notch above.
Yeah, I would say so, especially when you got a team like Salisbury leading your conference. That alone makes your conference a lot harder when you have a team who's won countless national championships, countless conference championships, and however many All-Americans that their team produces a year. A few flags on the ground.
Although, as you mentioned, too, Lynchburg and Washington Lee over the years really has had a rich lacrosse history.
Yeah, absolutely. Last year, both Washington Lee and Hampden-Sydney went deep into the NCAA tournament. Washington Lee losing, I believe, in the quarterfinals, maybe the week before the quarterfinals, but still a very hard thing to do to make it to the national tournament in lacrosse. It's in Division III lacrosse with all the talented teams they have out there.
Good pass from right to left, but it was missed by the Cazanovia Wildcats. And that's obviously the dream of the Knights to someday make it into the D3 tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And being in the conference that we are in, if you make it to the conference championship, then you're guaranteed a spot in the national tournament as well.
Although that's tough, as we talked about at the very beginning, when you're talking about an elite top 3 or 4 teams like Mary Washington, CNU, York, and Salisbury.
Right. It's definitely not an easy thing to do, and Jason Lamb definitely thinks that this is a team that could make that run this year, although they did have a hard time against Christopher Newport. They definitely think that they have the talent and the ability to make it that far to that CAC championship game.
Yeah, you could really argue, I guess you're talking about 4 stages in the Capital Athletic Conference. I guess you could call them the bottom rung. And then perhaps the Knights are in the 3rd stage right now where you get to the quarterfinals but are on the road. And then you've got the 2nd stage, which maybe would be the 3, maybe even the 2, 3, and 4 teams. And then some might argue there's only one team in the 1st stage, and that's Salisbury.
Right. So definitely even just making it to the CAC CNC tournament is CAC tournament is a very challenging thing to do. Even the considered bottom tier teams are still relatively talented and will win against a lot of teams in these other conferences.
In fact, you've got to really say that for the Knights the last couple of years and Coach Lamb, I mean, that was just a heck of an achievement just to make the CAC tournament the last 2 years.
Oh, absolutely, especially given the numbers where most teams that we play have a 40-man roster, and we had a 22-man roster. So definitely just shows that, Jason Lamb is definitely bringing in the right players in this organization, and the kids our players are finally starting to buy into his system, and it'll be exciting to see how the team, turns out in the next 3 to 4 years when you get these missionaries that are coming back, these super talented missionaries coming back and then becoming seniors. It'll be interesting to see that maybe Southern Virginia will be that team where teams are like.
Cade Rich scores. He's been itching to get a shot on goal, and he was able to get that one to go. And Cade, I believe that's his 7th goal of the season.
That was a good take by Cade.
You mentioned the missionaries coming back, and I guess we were talking earlier about Kimber and Danneman coming back, and I don't know how often the case where you leave school for a couple of years to go on a trip, and I'm sure it happens from time to time where they come back and maybe sports just isn't the big priority.
Yeah, no, it's possible. It definitely happens.
And I don't know also if it is a big priority, how tough it is to have that kind of layoff and make the adjustment.
Oh, I'm sure it's hard. I mean, me personally, I never went through that experience. But if you love the game long enough, or if you love the game enough and you're competitive enough, there's always ways to get your body in shape and your mind right back. And all you need to get your stick skills back is a wall, a ball, and your stick.
Because the Knights, as we talked about, are going to have some good seniors that they'll say goodbye to after the end of this season. But wouldn't that be something, in addition to new players, to bring Kimber and Danneman back? And you can imagine how tough next year's team might be.
Right. No, absolutely. And it's actually super exciting to think about that when you're going to have, 2 offensive studs like Peyton Kimber or Zach Danneman, who Zach Danneman in 2016 was the CAC Rookie of the Year.
Matched them up with Sean Lamb and maybe a few other guys off this year's team, and you would really have a heck of an offense.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's putting the finishing touches on this right now, a 12-goal victory. It would be 18-6. Again, the Knights led at halftime 7-4, but they have really dominated the second half, outscoring Cazanovia 11-2 in the second half.
Above all, I've been impressed with their defense and goalie play. Coming into this game where they're allowing double digits scoring every game, and you come in and you allow under 8 goals. That's just outstanding play by
They've
both.
Actually, got Derek Mame in the goal right now, and of course, Derek is another senior who saw a lot of time in goal over the past few years.
Another penalty
flag. I can't remember, in 2015, wasn't Derek the starting goalkeeper?
2015, yep.
Yeah.
Derek Lamb was the starting goalkeeper. I believe he was the only goalkeeper.
Yeah.
No, let alone not the starting. Just the starting goalkeeper we didn't even have.
He's a senior this year, along with several others. We mentioned Good is going to be a senior this year, and
Michael Anderson. And
yeah.
Yep. Well, they got a good group of seniors, and it's
I haven't seen Anderson play today, but he had some big goals earlier this season.
right. Well, Michael Anderson's been a part of the second line midfielder. He's been a little quiet this game, but
yeah, number 28.
Yep.
So when you look ahead to Wednesday night, what do you predict, I guess, for that Bridgewater game coming up on Wednesday?
Bridgewater's always had a high-scoring offense. Definitely a drive and dump type of team where they try to get the looks wide open on the crease for the easy dunk goals. I would expect it to be a high-scoring game as it was last year.
And the Knights obviously want to pick up that win on Wednesday to kind of really keep the momentum going for that conference game against Marymount next Saturday.
And that will wrap it up.
Yeah, the Knights a dominating second half, 18-6 overall. They was 7-4 at halftime. And Ryan, that really was a dominating second half performance, outscoring Cazenovia 11-2 in the second half.
Yeah, that was the difference of the game. I think you saw a lot of composure and some poise by the offense, especially leaders like Sean Lamb and Seth Garf and Tennyson Schmidt had big second halves, and you had a big game by Ian Arve in your defense. So all in all, a well-rounded performance. Also, Jace Thomas's numbers went up especially in the fourth quarter. Absolutely dominated the fourth quarter. And this is a great confidence booster, especially coming off of such a rough losing streak, losing a close game to Rhodes, having 2 high-scoring wins like playing against Hendricks and here against the Wildcats of Cazanovia. It's definitely what you want to have moving forward. Hopefully this will carry over into the meat of the CAC play.
And the Wildcats with the loss, they dropped to 0-3. The Knights with this victory now 6-3 on the season. That's 2 straight wins, as you mentioned, Ryan. And I got to believe that Coach Lamb really wants to get the win against Bridgewater on Wednesday to keep this winning streak going. Again, heading into the next Capital Conference game coming up a week from today against Marymount.
Right. And each game is just as important. Definitely with this young team, you got to build as much confidence as you need to as you go forward later into the season, and then assuming they make the tournament, carrying over into the tournament.
So congratulations to the Knights. A big second half especially. They led 7-4 at halftime. They go on for the 18-6 victory, and Southern Virginia now 6-3 on the season. Again, they'll be hosting Bridgewater Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. That'll wrap things up. Congratulations to the Knights on their 18-6 victory. I'm Jim Bresnahan for Ryan Larson and all of us here at Southern Virginia University. Thanks again for joining us for men's lacrosse today.